Smalland Survive the Wilds is leaving early access today and is going to be available on PC, Xbox, as well as PlayStation. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the game so you can decide whether or not you want to play it. Now, I'm watching the release trailer here. This is the first time I've actually watched this, so this is brand new to me. You'll notice that in this game, you're going to be a shrunken down humanoid. You're a small folk, and you will be taking on creatures that are larger than you. There's going to be both bugs and other types of creatures. The game has base building. It's going to have your typical survival systems that you would expect in most survival games. You'll notice here's a fight with a beetle. The game currently has, I believe, 9 bosses. There are lots of different mounts you can actually have. You can tame mounts here. You can see them riding a scorpion. There's lots of different mounts so you can get around the map quicker. And I played the game for about 26 hours in early access when it first came out, and then I kind of put it aside and was just waiting for the 1.0 release today. So in my 26 hours, I enjoyed most of it, and I thought there were some things that could be cleaned up, and it looks like a lot of the things that I had issues with have probably been addressed for the 1.0 release. I will be checking out the 1.0 release later today on stream at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on both Twitch and YouTube, so you can stop by if you want to see the first couple of hours of gameplay, to see if the games were right for you or not. Game also has NPCs you can get quests from, and it's kind of more of a, it's a little bit different than Grounded, which I think is a game is going to be compared to, in that you can have the mounts. There's lots of different NPCs you get quests from. You can align yourself with 4 different creature factions, which will then be beneficial to you because you can give them points and stuff like that to get bonuses from them. And just in general, it was a pretty decent survival game. So just to give you an idea of what the gameplay is like, this is some gameplay footage I captured back when the game was first released. So you'll notice I'm a little small folk here. I was actually playing multiplayer at the time, so you can play multiplayer. It has up to 10 players at one time. You can also have dedicated servers for the game on launch right now. And you'll see here that we're fighting some carpenter ants. So the combat has the typical dodge roll, and you can also block. And there's lots of different types of creatures in the game. I think there's some like 54 different types of enemies in the game currently. There's also base building like you would normally expect. Now, in this video footage here, I'm building on the ground. That's where I first built my base. You can actually build on top of the great trees. The cool thing about building on top of the great trees is you're safe from getting attacked, and you can also move your base completely from one great tree to another. So you could set up your base in the first great tree that you come across, and then when you advance further into the game and get to another one, you can actually transport the entire base in its entirety to another great tree, so you're not having to set up a bunch of different bases, or you could just set up a bunch of different bases. It's really up to you, but that was a pretty cool building feature that I had not experienced in any other games. Game's also going to have their typical resource gathering and crafting. There's lots of different things you can craft, lots of different weapon options. There's different armors. You're going to get different creature parts to make different weapons and armors. There's also sets that you can get, and you can get things from certain NPCs. There's also bosses that you can get items from. So it's your typical survival game where you're just getting different, you can craft lots of different things, and as you progress through the game, in order to continue progressing through the game to take on tougher and tougher enemies. So that's kind of like a high-level overview of what the game has to offer. I wanted to take a look at the roadmap that they put out today for the 1.0. It's going to tell you what's currently in the game on the left side. On the right side, what's going to be coming. So right now available is going to be the Giant Falls, Forbidden Monuments, Amber Valley, and Tyrant's Perch. Those are the different biomes that you can explore. I believe when I played, it was only the first 2 that were available. I have not played the Amber Valley, and I have not seen the Tyrant's Perch because I believe that came out today. It's got updated tutorials. It has 10-player dedicated and local multiplayer. Has custom server and world settings. There's 54 total creatures, 8 tameable creatures, which is cool. So in that previous video, you could see you can actually get ground-based mounts as well as flying mounts as well, which is pretty cool. There's 14 different NPCs that are going to give you quests. You can also get, from what the last time when I played it, each one of those NPCs also had items you can get from them. There's event system, which were something that was new that was added for 1.0. These are world events where you can go out and you complete a world event, and when you do it, you get points that you can then give to the different 1 of 4 different factions and build up, I guess, reputation with them to get bonuses from them. So there are the factions. There's 4 current factions in the game. There's 4 building tiers, scalability, 7 different creature mounts. So there's 8 tameable creatures, 7 of which can be mounts. There's 9 boss fights. When I played, there was only a handful of boss fights. They ranged from relatively, like, I guess I'd say moderately difficult to some of them were actually pretty challenging. So the combat in the game was not very forgiving. You had to be kind of really paying attention when you were fighting in the game, because if you just got careless with it, you would very quickly just get destroyed, especially against the tougher enemies and the bosses. There's 76 armor pieces, there's 34 weapons and 9 ammo types. That's what's currently in the game. Now, when I played it early access, I put about 26 hours into it. I believe I had 2 saves, and I think most of the time was on 1 save. And I think I got through probably like 3/4 of the current content that was at early access. So with the 2 new biomes being added, I would estimate that right now you're probably going to get somewhere between 40 and 60 hours out of the 1.0 release of it. I guess that'll depend on how quickly you breeze through the content, if you take your time to build a base, if you take your time to explore, or if you just blow through the quests. Also, if you're playing solo or co-op, if you're playing co-op, you'll probably get through it a little bit quicker. But I would guess that on average, you'll probably get somewhere between 40 and 60 hours. So before I take a look at what's coming in the future, I did want to take a little bit of a deep dive into the world events that are happening, because they did make a individual post just for the world events. So it says coming soon. It says on February 15th, which is obviously today, the day this game's coming out. With Update 4, we'll be introducing events and factions, adding liveliness to the overworld. This system comes with some unique rewards, gameplay situations, and replayability. So in this case, there's a bunch of different ants here that are kind of gathered up. They got symbols over them, so I guess that means they're probably angry. It says, first up, the events themselves. This is the first iteration of the event system that covers the groundwork of things to come. On debut of this system, there will be several possible combat scenarios that will spawn across the overworld, so make sure you're well equipped. These events will spawn once every 15 to 20 minutes and trigger once you're near. So this kind of feels like it's almost like an MMO, in where there's just world events that pop up. You can go over there and you can either take part of them or not. I'm definitely going to be curious to see how these are, how easy or how hard they're going to be, depending if you're playing solo or for friends. Upon successfully completing an event, you will be awarded contribution points. These points can be, well, given towards any of the current 4 factions: ants, spiders, beasts, and bees. So beasts would be the, I guess, the creature that are the lizards and stuff like that. I don't know how many, I don't know what's categorized under the different beasts, but I know the game had lizards, it's got scorpions, and I think there was a few others. Each faction can also be traded with, offering tradable armor sets and cosmetic building parts. Interesting. Once you contribute 1,000 points to a faction, you can align with them to unlock a unique perk. The greater your contribution and the more store tiers that you cap out, the greater the benefit of the affiliation. These perks have various effects that help make characters more powerful in combat, better at surviving, better at taming, or better at resource gathering. You can find each faction representative of Murmek, Lysandra, Scotty, and Drastana. So here's an example. Here's Lysandra. This is one of the NPCs in the game, and you'll notice that this looks like it's going to be, I believe this is probably the spider set here, because it's got Silkweave Mask, Faction Silkweave. In fact, I think I unlocked these. I think this was the last set I unlocked when I played in the early access. So the world events are definitely just a different kind of feature that I've not seen in any of the survival games I've played recently. I know they might exist in other survival games, but none of the ones I've played recently. This feels more like I said, an MMO, or I'm thinking like a game I played last year would be Diablo 4, where there's world events that pop up. You just go over and you can just participate in them and get rewards from them. So that's definitely going to add it's just another activity to do in the game that is interesting, and we'll see how it plays out. All right, now taking a look at what's coming soon. So honestly, I did not expect to be getting a ton of content after 1.0 of this, but apparently the developers are committed to the game, and it looks like they're going to be updating it for probably the rest of the year. So the first up section over here is going to be on the right, crafting overhaul, improve workbenches, improve crafting station progression, improve crafting immersion, and time-based crafting. And that's coming in April 2024. So what, about a month and a half after launch, or a month and a half after launch. Taming overhaul, improved tamed creature interactions and behavior, more tameable creatures, increased limit of tamed creatures in party, revamped tame mechanics. So the first one's going to be focused on crafting. Then June, they're going to be focusing on taming. There's already 7 or 8 creatures that can be tamed, 7 of which can be mounts. So it looks like they're going to be bumping that up a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what they add. Right now, you can get both land-based and flying mounts from what I remember. So, and what I've seen. So that's definitely gonna be interesting to see what other things you can actually add to your party, because you can actually use them in combat as well, which is pretty cool. And then down here, coming in 2024, stay tuned. Cross-platform multiplayer. So the game obviously available on PC. It's also on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S. So the cross-platform multiplayer will be coming in sometime later in 2024. World development and expansion. I guess they're going to keep adding to the map. Consumable system enhancements, new event types. So I just talked about the world events, so it'll be interesting to see what the diversity is in the current world events at the 1.0 release and what they have planned in the future. More faction tiers, new creatures, new armor and weapons, and new equipment. So it sounds like there's a lot of stuff planned for post 1.0, which is definitely cool to see, because that means they're not kind of just saying here's the game and that's the end of it. You'll be able to play through all the current content and then come back when they add new stuff, or maybe just wait till they add all this stuff and come back in 6 months to a year after the game comes out and possibly get a completely different experience and a better experience, because it looks like all the things they're talking about are improving things, improving the crafting, improving the taming, adding, obviously being able to play with people across multiple platforms is definitely going to be helpful for the game long term. The game does have 10-player dedicated servers, and you can also play 10-player on just a non-dedicated server playing with just friends. That's all. I mean, that's definitely a decent amount of players on one save, so that's pretty cool. And just being able to play with people across platforms will definitely be helpful for the longevity of this game. And again, like I said, I'm going to be checking out the game later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on both Twitch and YouTube. if you want to check out the first couple of hours of gameplay to see if the game's right or not for you. And you can ask any questions. Like I said, I have 20 plus hours in the game in the early access. I know enough about the game that I can answer most questions. So if you have any questions, stop by. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.